Welcome to Thoughts from TV Geek, Top 5 Horror Movies.
So I'm going to start with my number 5 best horror movie of all time. It's Pet Sematary. The reason why is I love the concept of somebody that you care about coming back to life if you can make that happen and still have that one last chance of being with them. The twist is that they don't come back quite the way they were before. And there's one particular scene of Gage walking down the hallway holding a scalpel. Now this is a little 4 or 5-year-old walking down the hall with the scalpel in hand. Just blew my mind. I've never seen anything like it, and I thought it was one of the sickest things that I think I've ever seen in a movie, because it's a small child walking down the hall saying, "Daddy, I want to play with you." But he's holding a scalpel. It's not right. It's messed up. Number 4 is what once was everybody's worst horror movie, I think, was Blair Witch. Loved it the moment it came out. Saw everybody leaving the theater confused, not knowing what was going on. And the funny thing is about it, everybody was complaining that it was too fast, it was moving too much. But now that's how most action movies are filmed, with the Steadicam or by hand, and it's all that shaky look to it, which really brought that style onto its own. Next up, number 3, Halloween. Rob Zombie's remake of Halloween I thought was great. Generally, I don't like any remakes of any movies because they do a horrible job, but I was never a fan of the original Halloween, so to have him come out and remake it was, I thought, genius. I actually got into it for the first time, and you got to, especially in the second one, you got to see how Mike Myers ate. Who ever thought he ate, but he ate dog. Interesting. Number 2 is an all-time classic, The Exorcist. I don't really need to say much more than that. If you know the movie, you understand it. I'm just going to leave it at that. My number 1 all-time horror movie is Friday the 13th. Big Jason fan ever since I was a little kid, because it scared the crap out of me. The scene where Jason comes popping out of the water at the end and grabs a girl, brings her back in grabs her from the boat and brings her into the water. Scared me to death. I tripped going over the coffee table, running out of the room because I had no clue what was going on. I was probably 7, 8 years old, and I had no clue. I was scared to death.
My top 5 horror movies are actually vampire movies. Always been a fan of vampire movies ever since I was a kid and saw Dark Shadows on television. Number 5 on my list is Underworld. I really loved the first one. I loved the whole lichens and vampires, the aristocratic vampires that they showed, the whole color scheme and look of the movie. I also loved number 3, and because that went back into the past. It was kind of the prequel, and I thought it was a fantastic movie. Number 4 on my list is Interview with a Vampire. Now, I read the book Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice and absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite books. And so when they were making this movie, I was extremely excited. And for those of us that were around then, there was big major controversy about Tom Cruise playing Vampire Lestat. And even Anne Rice herself didn't think that he could do the job. Well, when the movie came out, Anne Rice posted a full-page ad in Variety about how she loved it and how Tom Cruise nailed her Vampire Lestat. And I think that Brad Pitt was amazing in it. The whole story was fantastic. I think they did a great job. Number 3 on my list is From Dusk Till Dawn. Quentin Tarantino. I really did love that movie. I love in the beginning how you don't even know that it's a vampire movie. The whole first half of the movie is the guys and kidnapping and the family, father and daughter, until they get to that bar. That's when all hell breaks loose and you find out, yeah, this is a vampire movie. And I thought that was very cool. especially when it first opened and maybe you didn't know when you went to the movie. Number 2, a movie that probably most of you haven't heard of unless you're really into vampire movies. It's called Near Dark. Near Dark I saw on VHS. It's a sleeper, like I say, nobody's heard of it, but I loved it. I felt like if vampires were real, this is how they would live. It opens with this guy meeting this girl, not knowing that she's a vampire, not knowing that he was supposed to be the first one that she turned, and she didn't do it because she really liked him. And they were almost like this little family, and they rode around in an RV. They would find places to park, and they would put black duct tape and aluminum foil on the windows, that kind of thing. Like I said, it's not up there with all these other movies that everybody's heard of, but as far as vampire movies go, I really, really love Near Dark. Number 1 on my list is Lost Boys. Phenomenal movie.
Good movie.
Kiefer Sutherland. I just love the whole thing, between the comedy with the Frog Brothers and you know, and it just, the one-liners. It's one of those where it's funny and scary and a drama, like all mixed into one. I can see why it really was a big hit, and I loved it from day one when it was in the theaters. And so that is my number 1 vampire movie.